Coming up on today's pod, we have legendary casting director, but more importantly, a good Long Island girl and a proud Italian American, Felicia Fasano. Yeah. Here we go. Let's get these questions from the DMs. Yep. All right, well, that's what I heard. So what do you want me to tell you?
Baby. Thanks for having me, Emma.
Thank you so much for coming. I feel like this is a big get for the pod.
I would like to think that.
So, but you've been doing this for what, 35 years? A casting
35
director?
years. I've been in casting. Yeah, I started as a casting assistant, working for Jackie Birch, which she was amazing. She did all of the John Hughes films. She had started in there, and I worked out with her on a bunch of Joel Silver action movies, the Die Hard, Predator, 48-hour movies. Yeah, so.
But even more fun than that, you started your career in porn. Is that right?
I did.
Yes.
I was a hairdresser on Long Island. And when I was about 19, I had my first chair. I went right out of high school to beauty school.
What does that mean, your first chair?
My first chair in a salon.
Okay.
It was a little salon in my town in Long Island, Port Washington. Yeah.
Shout out.
North Shore. And I don't know why I keep doing this. I've never done that in my life. And my brother had started working in that industry and hired me to do hair and makeup on porn shoots. And I did them. And this was back in the mid-'80s in New York. And we would do what they called one-day Wandas. Okay. And which meant we shot them all in one day. And the one thing I'll never forget
What do you mean, like one girl did multiple movies in one day?
There was one movie, multiple actors coming in and out.
Yes, I see.
But the thing you'll never forget if you've ever been in a porn set is the smell of a porn set, which there is nothing like it. If I smelt it today, I would say, where is the porn? Because it smells like a porn set.
Now, were these like narrative porns?
Yeah, they had, the pizza guy or whatever. I don't really remember what the stories were. But they were the real thing. And then I kind of segued into the less penetration ones that were in the beginning of Cinemax or Skinemax.
Oh, no way.
Where there was like Marilyn Chambers and Ginger Lynn would be in them. And I worked in the art department on those.
Right. And so you just started slowly moving. So I would say that between narrative porn sets and Hollywood films, it seems like there's about 3 different steps.
I would say,
like,
about 3.
Like the next step would be Cinemax.
3 degrees of separation.
Right, and then so you go Cinemax and then something else, and then Hollywood, just full Hollywood.
Well, it was interesting because in New York at that time, the crew had all worked on, I'm going to say, Birch and Ivory movies. I mean, this is what people did, for on the side, your day job.
How did it pay? Well?
It paid so well. I mean,
really?
I was 19 years old. What is it, 1985, and I'm making $250 a day.
That's very good. Yeah, for that.
It was really good. I was living in my parents' house, and they knew what I was doing. They're like, okay, see you later.
That's so funny. They're like, both our kids, send them out to school, pack them a lunch.
Wipe the stink off before you come in.
My children are disgusting. Have a good day. Now, okay, so when you're working in a chair in a hair salon.
Yes.
Like, how much are you making doing that? Like, how does that work?
Oh, well, that was the reason I left.
Because they take a cut, because like the salon takes a cut of your money, right?
Well, back then, I worked in, like a chain place, which is why I got a chair right out of beauty school. And you got paid a salary, and then you just basically lived on your tips. So the salary was below minimum wage.
Right.
And at that time, they would put in the penny saver coupons for $19 perm, haircut, blowout, set, whatever it was, the old ladies. Right. And then they would come with $20. So you would get $1 tip. Right. And you would spend 4 hours on them.
Yeah. So you're like, fuck this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, no, thank
So then $250 a day, that's amazing.
Yeah,
so you're living good.
Great.
Are you like, is there like a party atmosphere? Like you guys are making money? It's like everyone's hot?
Yeah. Well, they were hot. Not necessarily, but, and I was young, like I was, I got a lot of offers, but I was not really that interested in them. And I was young, like they were all kind of a little bit older than I was.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, because I used to interview them all. I wanted to know everything. So it was the same story. All of the girls did it to support their musician boyfriends, and all the guys did it for the sex, and that was it. Like down the down the line, everyone's answers were pretty much the same.
Wow! And you just interview them because you're just a curious person.
Yeah, I was like doing their hair and makeup. I was like, how'd you know, why do you do this, or how'd you get started, and what else do you like to do?
Did you ever come across one of the porn actors who you felt like could be a legit star?
No.
And like you saw. Absolutely not.
But what was funny was when I was working in casting in Los Angeles, I did occasionally come across somebody who had come in, and I was like, I know you. We worked on,
And would they pretend they don't remember? Or?
Probably, yeah, they would pretend, and I just I had no shame about
and you
it.
Go,
because it was
know
a job for
You're
me.
like,
Yeah.
I'll never forget you.
I mean, they're out there. Their faces are there.
Wow. So then how'd you make the switch to like official Hollywood casting world?
It was sort of, I would say I definitely lucked into it because my brother had moved out here. He was a writer and a producer and a director. And after doing the porn, we started doing horror movies in Canada.
Oh, so that's the third step.
That was
it's hardcore porn, Cinemax, horror movies, Hollywood.
That was it.
That's it. Okay.
That's the third step. That's going to be the title of my biography, basically. He started doing these horror movies, and he would just send me up there at 20 years old and say up to Hamilton, Ontario, or Dundas or Mississauga, one of these wonderful places, which we shot these little horror movies.
I don't even know the words you just said.
They're all
Mississauga?
out in the boony, outside of in Ontario. So we would drive up from Long Island with all of our friends, because he would pretty much work all of us to do it, with monsters in our cars, crossing the border into Canada without any sort of papers, because we were just doing it, rogue, and a little guerrilla filmmaking. And then he would leave me up there to cast the movie, crew the movie, get the sets, get the locations, hire the crew. And I'm 20 years old, and I'm knocking on people's doors saying, can I use your house for a location? I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right. And how often did people say yes?
They must have, because we got houses.
Wow.
I mean, I was pretty convincing, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was young and, probably kind of cute. So they were like, well, she looks innocent enough. Yeah. So then he would come back, and he'd said, did Felicia hire the entire crew? Because everyone looks like Rob Lowe and there's no girls. And I was like, I needed good odds, man. And there's a lot of beer. I loved that beer up there. Yeah. So we would do these movies. And then he moved to LA. And I had this great job working for Chuck Vincent, a premier pornographer. And he had his own studio in Queens, a whole warehouse.
Really?
And we would do that's where we were doing the Cinemax movie. So I was sort of doing that at the same time.
Okay.
And I loved this job. I was in the art department, and basically it meant that I did all the props and wardrobe and every set deck. And years later, so this one movie we were doing was starring Marilyn Chambers, who, if you don't know who she is, Behind the Green Door, Marilyn Chambers.
Porn, right?
Porn.
Yeah.
And this was a Cinemax type movie, and the idea of the movie, because all of the movies had the same idea. Almost all of them had a will in it. And they were so cheap that they would use the crew. So this one film was called Marilyn Chambers Party Planner. And we're basically following the day in the life of Marilyn Chambers. And then here and there, she has sex with whoever.
Right, yeah.
So
here and there, sprinkled in here and there. Sure.
And there was also a musical component to it, because we were all wearing whatever our job was on a sweatshirt. So mine said props. And we would follow her around. So anytime a doorbell rang, I would come out with the bell, and we're all following her up the stairway at a mall, singing. So I'm in this movie.
Right.
Cut to a few years later when I'm in LA working as a casting assistant, and one day John Landis calls the office and says, we're working on a movie called Oscar, which is the funniest movie ever. And he's like, Felicia, did I see you in a porn movie on Cinemax last night? And his producer was on the phone and said, I saw that too. So for many years, people would actually see me and ask me if that was actually me. And I was like, yeah, that was me. But I was in the art department. I wasn't taking off my clothes.
Wait, is John Landis the one who got decapitated?
Well, he did not. He was the director of the movie.
Oh, and someone got decapitated.
Yeah,
right?
It was actually Vic Morrow, who was Jennifer Jason Lee's father.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's crazy.
That was terrible times.
Because it was the helicopter. We don't have to get into it, but the helicopter crashed, right?
No, it just came too low.
Ooh, mamma mia.
Yeah, and it was just one of those awful situations, and I'm not remembering correctly if it was like precautions were not taken correctly.
I'm sure they were not.
And they were in another country, and, you know, it was a very horrible thing.
That's wild. All right, so you get into casting.
I get into casting through my brother. I moved to LA. I had a couple of crazy fun jobs. I was a puppeteer on Gremlins 2.
You're the most random person.
I worked on a Disney ride. I was the production designer's assistant on a Disney ride. That was super fun. I really wanted to be in the art department. I ended up, my brother wrote another 48 Hours, which is the sequel to 48 Hours. And I wanted to be the art department in that. Anyway, it didn't work out. He said, casting needs a PA. I was also meeting to be an agent's assistant at the same time. And I was like, oh, reading scripts and doing coverage. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So I ended up meeting with Jackie Birch, and that's how I ended up working with her for 3 years. And it was incredible. I mean, she's one of the greatest. And back then was just a different time. I mean, I was flying with her to Europe.
First class.
First class.
Yeah,
Hudson Hawk.
baby.
We were getting gifts that were like incredible. And
Like bribes?
No bribes, not to me, but like gifts from the show.
Yes,
like I remember on Hudson Hawk, we all got leather Averex jackets that were like $500. That's what, 1989, 1990 or something. And I was like, oh my God, should I sell this? You know, I kept it forever. My father used to wear all of my old jackets from those things. Actually, for years, they called him Oscar in town because I gave him the Oscar windbreaker, and he would wear that all over Port Washington. And so his nickname was Oscar.
Now, so casting directors are actually in the Teamsters Union.
We're Teamsters.
Which is so random and so fun.
Well, I can tell you why.
Nobody wanted you guys, right?
Nobody wanted us. They tried for years to have a union. We're only in now 17 years. We've been a union, and thank God now we have insurance. We didn't for all of those other years. And now associates are also members, so they're banking. I mean, I could have retired as a Teamster if we had been Teamsters from the beginning.
Right.
But
it is the best union.
It is the greatest.
I mean, all the unions are great. All the unions are great.
They're so supportive, but they really are the truest, greatest union.
Yeah.
And I grew up, my father was a high school teacher and he was in a union. So I grew up very much like respecting unions and what they do.
Yeah. All right. Here's the big $1 million question.
Can't wait.
As a casting director.
Yes.
What makes a star?
You know, I thought about it.
Okay.
Because I know you're very curious about what makes a star.
Yeah.
And the thing that kept coming to my head, because it's really, it's going to be probably more vague than you would like it to be, the answer. But I think it's just all of the stars aligning. A lot of it is the part that makes them a star. The timing of that part, what's going on, like what are people watching at that time? I've seen people that I've known for years all of a sudden just get that one part that was so perfect that really escalated them in a different way. And there's like this, and there's not the old school stars of like, you know, Greta Garbo that you would look and go, that's a screen star because their face and it was black and white and the angles and you just couldn't stop looking at them because it's now everything is on HD and you're watching it in a different way. I don't know that you get that same quality that you would just say like, oh, you don't even know if that person's a good actor before, but they were just such a star. You just wanted to watch them.
And they were mysterious. There's no mystery to celebs anymore. And I don't know if it's worse or better than the old way. I think it's just different. But, you know, you have so much access to everyone now.
Oh, well, that's social
So there's
media.
no mystery.
There's
that's
no
what I'm
mystery.
saying. Yeah.
And then the people who do keep their lives mysterious, people are like, what's wrong with them? Like, there's got to be something.
Or you pay for it in other ways. Like, if you're not open on social media, you pay by having, like, you're, like, the only people that the paparazzi follow anymore.
Right.
So you pay in that way.
It's true.
But maybe that's what maybe that's what they want. Me, I'll be like, I just ate lunch here and I had this and I'm getting on the bus.
I think a lot of actors who all of a sudden are sort of thrown into that kind of wish, as much as maybe they thought they wanted that, I feel like they look back and go like, oh, it was kind of nicer when I was more anonymous.
Right.
You know, I mean, it is, I do feel like there's that catch-22 with it for people.
Yeah.
You know, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Well, so I think what you're saying is that what makes a star, luck isn't the right word, but like this, I think the stars aligning is the best way to put it.
So, at least for me.
Yeah.
If I'm thinking current, what's really, people are really, exploding in. There's so many different things, especially now, like reality TV. I laughed so hard when I heard reality TV star.
Right.
And I was like, or when they would call them, like, say they had fans. Like, I really could not wrap my head around that. And by the way, I love reality TV. I worked in reality TV. I cast The Real World, season 2,
Wait,
LA.
pause. You cast Real World?
I did. And Road Rules season 1. The one I did was Dave, the comedian, and Tammy, and the 2 Beths.
Yeah, okay.
And Dominic, the Irish guy,
huge.
the bartender.
Wow, Real World, baby.
Oh, yeah. So I started it, and I mean, like, it was a really different experience then. But I never would have thought of, and I don't think back then we would have thought of them as being stars.
Right.
I mean, they were not. I mean, when we were casting those shows, very different experience, because one of the many things you're looking for is, besides being telegenetic, is, can you tell your story?
Yes.
Many people cannot.
Narrative talent.
Right. And that is something that is what works for reality stars.
That's so interesting that you just said that.
Which is very different than what is, a narrative star.
Right. Interesting. But so, like, when you're like, so a part of being a casting director, you watch millions of tapes, right? People send in the tapes. Yeah. Oh, I just thought of this before we end.
Can I take a sip of coffee?
Of course. Take a sip of anything you want. Smoke a cig. That's what I heard, baby.
Oh. No gin and tonics today.
Ooh, we should do gin and tonics on the pod. Sometimes in New York, when we're on the pod, we just drink whiskey out of the bottle. And by the end, people are slurring their words. Nothing makes sense. It's ridiculous. It's like...
Oh my God. I was going to show up late and be like your dad. Is he always late? I saw the one where he was like, you're like, you were, I was just right outside. And you're like, I've been waiting for half an hour.
I literally told him that we taped the pod at 4 p.m. because we tape it at 5. And I knew that if I told him 4, he would be there at 5.
Yeah.
And he was there at 5:30. So he was there 1.5 hours late as far as he's concerned. Unbelievable. Okay, so the whole COVID shifted everything to tapes.
Right.
So now it used to be that you have all the little actors and actors running around town all day, going in person to auditions. You wait in that little waiting room. I never did this part of the business, but like this is what I heard. I've been to a few like commercial auditions, but
did we give you like your first part? Kind of.
Yeah, you gave me my first acting part. Yes. Well, okay, we'll get to that. So all these little actors running around town with a little folder and a little like deodorant, lipstick in their bag, whatever. And then they go to this little room and there's all these other girls look exactly like them. And then you wait outside, you go in, you meet the casting director, you say the lines. If you're lucky, they give you feedback and you say them again. And then they say, have a nice life.
Yeah.
Is that?
Kind of. Yeah. Okay. In a very truncated way.
But now
in your typical 3-step fashion that you like.
Boom, boom, boom. We got to make this simple. So now after COVID, everything switched to on your own time, in your own home or wherever with your own stuff. You make a tape, you send it off, and the casting director watches it, which has its ups and like pros and cons, I guess, because you can do it on your own time. You don't have to do this running around town thing. Yeah. But then you can't get real life feedback or make adjustments. So you might not get the part. But what would you say you prefer, the in-person or
I mean, there's nothing like in-person, of course. I'm a people person. Yeah. I like being around the actors. That's the best part of my job, has always been being in the room with the actors. And I read with everybody, and I literally read with everyone.
Right.
So having that taken away sucks.
Yeah.
But I will say self-tapes have been around for a way longer time. How do you think all of these foreign actors who were starring and everything got those jobs? It's been going on for a very long time. And there were some casting directors in LA specifically that started having people self-tape in town while they were in town, which I always thought was odd because then they'd come into my office so I could tape them because they would be my friends.
Right.
And say, can you tape me for so-and-so? And I'd be like, well, they're here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but they want self-tapes from everyone. It's like,
Okay.
So I was never a fan of that specifically. But it's funny because many people got parts from me taping them for other people. Look, it's happened, and it's not something that the casting directors have control over, because once we were forced in this situation from COVID, the studios realized they were saving so much money by not paying for us to have offices. So that is a big chunk of money. I was always, if I wasn't put in a space, like when I was casting Californication, for example, I had an office with the show. So my office was here and my audition room was here and there was the stage. So I would, like people would be seeing our actors as they were shooting. I mean, we were like all in one thing, but sometimes they wouldn't have space for us in a place. So then they'd have to rent a space for us. And then it became harder and harder. People were not working on stage. A lot of stuff is shooting out of town. They stopped shooting as much in LA, and I mostly do comedy, so that usually still shoots in LA, but they were starting to outsource that to Toronto or, Atlanta as well. And so there's really no stage room for you to be. There may be production offices here, but they're not having that room for you as well. So they would pay for us to be somewhere else. So they're saving on that. They're saving for the parking on that. They're saving for the insurance. So if I'm on a lot.
They're saving for the bagels, the lunch.
They did not get us any lunches ever.
No lunch?
No.
I don't
we
like
got
that.
the water. We got the water.
Thank God we're on strike.
We got the water, the computer rentals, blah, blah, blah. I mean,
Sure.
It's a lot. And when you think about it, it probably added up to a big number.
But now you spend half your goddamn day downloading tapes. Now you should be getting paid for your internet.
Well,
you should
be getting, so they
you
give
should be getting a kit for your computer.
And they have to. No, you use your own computer. They give you a stipend for that, and then also your associates and assistants. Legally are supposed to get stipends. I fight with that every time on my contract. I've called Business Affairs and said it's illegal for you not to pay them a stipend for using their stuff. Oh, wait, I just lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
Give me 1 second. Shit. It was good. It was a good one.
Stipend, computers.
Yeah. So, and also you need bigger staff for it then. And also, I hate to keep saying it also, when COVID happened, that also put a lot of pressure on steps for us in casting as well. So we needed bigger teams. We needed, usually myself, I don't keep a big staff. I don't have a big office. I don't work on multiple things
Yeah, you're farm
at
to
once.
table casting.
Farm to table. That's perfect. That's going to be my name.
Farm to table,
soup to nuts.
Yeah.
So it's just myself, an associate, and an assistant. And I will fight to keep the assistant because some shows or some networks are saying you don't need to have one, but you absolutely do.
Absolutely do.
Uploading all of this stuff.
The upload, the render.
I need to be watching everything, and I need to be figuring out who's going to tape. So there's a lot of that, and having conversations as well with everyone. And, people don't realize as casting directors, we are the only department that has direct access and multiple times a day with the studios and networks. No other department.
What do you mean by that?
I have a casting executive or even the regular, the other executives, the currents.
That's part of the studio.
That I talk to on a regular basis.
And what do they tell you? Budget? Like you say this person wants $40,000 an episode and they say,
well, first you go through your producers about that. You have an idea.
Well, can you tell me the whole process? How does it work?
How many hours do we have here?
Okay, wait. So,
What?
So who decides how much, because you're the liaison between the production and the studio, I think is what you're saying, when it comes to the scheduling and payment and the deals of the cast.
Scheduling, they have nothing to do with the studio. That's production.
Okay, but the deals.
The deals, yes.
Yeah, so the studio tells you how much you can pay?
They tell our line producer, they have a budget, and then we have a budget. And then when we know what the schedule is, that's how we can figure out how much we're going to offer people. And sometimes the way the schedule lays out is not conductive to paying people what is in the budget. So you have to like then go to your line producer and figure it out. And there'll be times where your producer will say, well, go to the studio and ask them for more money. And then they'll say to me, oh no, ask your producer to find it in their budget. So then, you know what I mean? Like you have like an overall budget per I'm thinking episodically. And then you'll have to like, you're kind of, you know, paying Peter to pay Paul.
Well, because you could be like, because it could be like, okay, we're casting an actor for this episode. They're working 2 days. And then you go, okay, great, we'll pay him for 2 days. And then you go and look at the production schedule. Days? That's the thing. And then so it's like, oh, the days are 8 days apart. So now we're paying for 10 days because you're holding, or not 10, you know, weekends, whatever. But you're paying for like 6 days. Right. Because you have to hold in between. So then that's what messes everything up.
So then I'll go to the AD and I'll say, can you make this so that we can only, you know, have this person for a day or two? Can you figure out a way to do that? And you know, you work in conjunction with that department very tightly. We're constantly talking to the AD department and the producers. And sometimes they'll have to go to the showrunner and say, hey, is there a way to shoot this? Because we want this person and we can't afford to have them 2 days, but they'll do it for this much money for that one day. And they'll have to decide if they can, you know, if they'll like shoot it exterior, they'll catch something in the bathroom. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is.
Totally.
Like it's great when you work with those showrunners like a Pamela Adlon who I work with and who can make anything work, you know? And we're like, this is what we have. She's like, okay, I'll figure it out, or I've already figured it out. I mean, you really want to be lucky, and that's where luck comes in, working with people like that understand those limitations. And also probably because of her being an actor. Yeah. It's helpful.
I'm sure you're also, one of the reasons you're so good at the job is because you have worked in so many different areas of the business.
I mean, I've worked very closely sometimes with wardrobe. Yeah. And art department sometimes. We're like, this is the kind of house they would have. You know what I mean? Like and with scripts, many times I get things and I'm like, you know what, I'm reading this with actors, this isn't working. So I'll go to them and say like, can I say this? Or is it okay if, you know, you guys rewrite this or something like that if it's just not working, especially in comedy. If I'm like, this is not coming off funny. No, I'm never going to get anyone hired for this part.
Right. Interesting.
You know, so
you're like, I can't make anyone look good with this material.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just like, this is the wrong piece to show.
To audition with.
Yeah. And maybe there isn't anything, but you know, like further down, they're going to have something funny to do. So there's a lot that goes into it. You have to have forethought about like, where's this character going? And sometimes I've been on shows where you didn't know anybody was ever coming back again. Where you're like, you hired somebody for one line and they're like, oh no, that character is going to be bigger later. I'm like,
oh yeah, that's the
murderer. Why didn't you tell us that?
You go, oh yeah, that's the murderer. That's the murderer.
That was a person I would have never seen them because they can't handle that yet. They're not ready for that kind of job yet.
Right, they're a two-line doll.
I mean, I would hope that all the two-line people are capable of it, but there have been times where like there's something specific they wanted that was very hard
it's
to
like
find.
Oh no, they have like an anal DP scene and their mother dies and they like hold her hand in the hospital, like that's the rest of the part and you're like, oh okay, I literally hired her to be a barista.
Yeah totally.
All right, so when you're watching tapes, what drives you crazy when you see actors doing it other than being bad at acting?
Can't help them with that. First of all, we go into everything, you know, hoping that everyone's great, you know. You can tell very quickly if they're right. So it's not necessarily if they're bad or good, but are they right for this or are they so different for it that's so interesting. I can't wait to show this because it's such a different way to go that I hadn't even thought of, but somebody brought something so different.
How often does that happen where you think you're looking for something and someone goes and you see somebody go, whoa, didn't even consider that? But
personally for me, a lot because I leave the door open for that when I'm picking people. Right. So there's like, you'll pick people so that you know can do it. And then I'm like, I don't even know these people. They look so cool. I like their resume. Yeah. Like I want to see or I saw them on this other thing. I don't know. I want to see what they do with this.
Yeah. So, and how often can you be kind of blown away or like blown off course by just seeing something really interesting, and then also get the creative team to agree to also change their minds, because it's like sometimes people are really like set on, they wrote it this way, they saw it this way, they want it this way.
You know, luckily at this point in my career, I feel like I work with people that are like-minded. So, and that's a big thing. Like I won't meet on, or I don't get called in for things that I just know I'm not right for, you know? So I feel like, at least in the, I don't know, the last 8 or so years, or 10 years that I've been working with people, that I can shortcut with them, shorthand it, like, I'm going to send you this person because it's it. You're going to die. You know what I mean? And they're like, great, I don't need to see anymore.
Really?
So luckily, that's also my relationship with a lot of the people I work with, because, like I said, we are kind of cut from that same cloth.
You know exactly who you're, like when you sit down and you're like, same cloth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all I want to work with, is really that, because earlier in my career, I did have those. I did fight and have conversations about diversity and, you know, disabilities with people, and throwing people in without telling them. I'm not going to ask. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And then make them come back to me and say, we don't want to see that, because then I'm going to have a real conversation with them about why.
Right.
You know, and is it eye-opening? I don't know. But it's really interesting to me, because as a casting director, we are sort of looked at as like these gatekeepers, and that's not true, because really it starts with the script and those minds behind what is going on. And if they're not open, and that's where the conversations need to be. Who are they hiring to write those scripts? What are their life experiences? What is their background? You know, if it's the same people, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
What I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Have you ever like watched a tape or something and you just died laughing and you go, but absolutely not. When you
we have a couple of those saved.
Completely not ever getting this job, but I love this.
I have a couple of those that we're not even watching, like in the room ones that we saved, sort of, because it was like, I just have to show you this. And it's like, for years we go back to it and go,
it's that like legendary.
Yeah, I have a couple of legendary ones.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's not like you're making fun of them. You're just like, that was so awesome.
Like,
it's just so not right for this part.
I mean, what is this? But it's not like making fun, but no one is seeing it but us, you know? It's not like we would ever say their names or, you know, show it outside of the people who saw it initially.
Of course,
So it's that kind of thing.
That's so funny. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. Who's harder to deal with, actors or reps or their representatives?
Well, I love actors, so forget that question.
Okay.
And I have great relationships with agents.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we're partners.
Yeah.
You know, we're partners in this. The really good ones are amazing. That's all I can say. It's like they have great taste. I can trust them. I know they're not going to like lie to me. I mean, the worst situations for us that happen is when they're trying so hard for their client to have multiple jobs that they're not honest about their schedule.
Yes.
And that's the stuff that really makes my job trickier.
Right.
It's not about like, you could pitch me people. I'm going to say no, or I'm going to say yes. Like, that's fine. That's a conversation about why they're right or why they're not right. But if you lie to me about their schedule, that completely screws my production.
Yeah.
And I have to protect that.
Right.
And that's the part that's hard. And I get it, because they want their clients to have all the jobs, you know, because they want to make the money themselves. And also, you know, it's good for their clients. But as the actor, you have to know, well, I don't think this job I can do it.
I'm available.
I don't think I'm available. And I've had that happen where actors have come in and knew they were coming in for this time period and been like, I'm actually leaving town tomorrow for 2 months. And I was like, well, why are you here?
Right.
Like, I really don't know. And I said it to my agent. They were like, well, just go in anyway.
Yeah.
Because maybe you'll get it. And it's like, and then what?
And then what? Yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But okay, so that sounds pretty positive. Like great relationships with reps and actors. Have you ever like discovered a star other than me?
Oh, you are the best. I've worked with a lot of actors who've gone on to be stars. I mean, discovering a star is
maybe
like
that's not even a real term.
somebody from the street and putting them the lead in a movie.
Yeah. And that's happened, what, 6 times in history?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
I don't.
Just
Lana
plucked
Turner.
off the street. Yeah.
At Schwab's.
Angus Cloud, rest in peace, from Euphoria. They said they pulled him right off the street.
Matt Dillon. He was in high school. They saw
Oh,
him
yeah.
He was 14 for Over the Edge.
He's from
my favorite
Mamaroneck.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
They saw him like smoking outside with the thing. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I wish that had happened to me. I've always was smoking outside.
I know.
Why didn't they say us? What the hell?
I'm still doing it. This is my star break.
Has anybody ever like tried to bribe or threaten you to get a job?
Threaten me.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't get the job, I'm going to murder your dogs.
Like, let's just like they say something a little shady. Like, let's just say I know about this, and if I don't get this part, let's just say I have a Twitter and I could release the files.
Oh my God.
That never happens.
I kind of died for that to happen.
That never happened.
No.
And I guess you can't out and out bribe people in today's
I've
Hollywood.
never been bribed.
But in the old Hollywood, I'm sure you could.
I've never been bribed. And I don't think anyone I know has been bribed. I know that there have been deals made. Like, I know it's when you're like, have you ever watched something and go like, how did that person get that job?
Yeah, here's what I think
And then you
happened.
realize that the big star, they also had the same agent. Like, there may be
Yes, it's like, I'll get you, like,
stuff.
some of the rep will be like, I'll get you the big star, but you also have to put my lesser star in.
Yes, but I have not personally,
That's
like,
such
there's
a
many times
shame.
if I'm trying to get somebody and I'll say to my showrunners, I was like, please write a letter and, to the actress.
A letter?
Yeah, like
Handwritten?
Yeah. No, typed.
Huh.
And we send a letter, like a note about like how much that person
Really?
means to them. And then I'll be like, if it's somebody, especially like an actress, I'll say, I know that they're starting to direct.
Yeah.
Maybe we could.
If it's an
offer them
actress,
a
open the
directing job.
letter with "You are so pretty."
You're so pretty.
And you're so pretty.
No, I think it's important also like to give the people the opportunity. So I'm always like, why can't we have them direct an episode also? Like, why don't we offer that in the thing? And then they have to go to business affairs and can we actually offer that? And what are they DGA? And like there's all that stuff. But I always like try, like, I guess I'm the briber then.
Yeah.
Does that make me the briber?
Yeah, I guess it does. Any like wild celeb stories, or no, it doesn't have to be celeb, just wild stories from in the casting room?
Well, yeah, I have to keep them in the casting room though. But
what stays in the casting room?
There have been, as a cast, especially when I was a casting assistant, because I started out also I read with actors. Oh, this is kind of funny. My first time ever reading with actors was on Another 48 Hours. And I'm in the room and it's reading with Tisha Campbell. And I took the sides home so I would like have them down. And Jackie Birch was there and Walter Hill, the director. And we start reading, and I do my best Eddie Murphy impression. Because it was that time. I mean, I grew up with Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
We're like, Delirious was like my life. And I could do it so well. So I was doing Eddie.
Right.
And I finished, and literally they're on the floor rolling, laughing so hard. They're like, you don't do Eddie anymore.
Yeah, there's no more Eddie.
It was very funny. So that was the first time I read with actors, and I loved it. But I've been in situations where I got like, I had to be really close to somebody. And I remember once I was doing this movie and James Franco was reading for the part. And it was the part of a guy in a wheelchair.
Okay.
And I was playing the Christina Ricci part, and he asked me to come and do the scene with my head on his lap. And I was like, sure, why not? And because I didn't do anything. And there's been times, there was another time I was doing a movie.
So you did it and it was fine?
Yeah, it was fine. I just, I read with it. It was awkward to shoot it, but the scene was that way. And then there was a time I've been like kissed, which you shouldn't
Against
do.
your will?
Well, I didn't know it was going to happen.
Wow.
Or like nuzzled and kissed
How
my
long
neck.
ago was this?
When I was an assistant. Most of it was an assistant.
Yeah.
But I was really cute.
This is like, I'm sure. So this is like what, 90s, 2000? 90s?
Like 1990, yeah.
1990. Yeah, anything goes.
I guess, it was really crazy. I was an assistant, and it was with Roger Rees, and we were reading for this movie with Stallone. oh my God, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. And it was like reading for the bad guy. I can't remember. I think he got the part. And he like had a gun in the scene and like kind of like knocked me. We kind of both fell on the couch together. That was kind of funny. Like nothing bad, but it was like one of those things. I mean, there's like things like that happen.
It just wouldn't be happening today.
No, now we really don't get that close to the actors. But I used to get like very in the scene with them just because I didn't know any better, and it worked back then.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in. This was very enlightening and awesome.
I'm so glad.
Want to get lunch?
Yes, starving.
Let's fucking rip cigs and eat and just fucking have a great time. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Felicia Fasano, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.